So many people have seen me on TV, and we've had our TV show and commercials for a lot of years. And a lot of people always ask, how did you get into this? There was one case, and I'll never forget. Can't forget it, right. Never forget it. And it was the most horrible case today out of all of the thousands of cases that I did. There'll never be one any worse than that. My dad was a lawyer since 1955. Me and my brother Jim got out of law school in late 80s, beginning of 90s, and we started a general practice firm. I've been doing elder law for about the last 15 to 17 years. About 10 years ago, I started really focusing on one area in Medicaid planning, estate planning, Medicaid planning, and then later on VA benefits. People look to me and they see me as being the lawyer that can help you if you're worried about someone having to go into a nursing home. There wasn't anyone that really taught that type of stuff, so a lot of it was learn as you go along and help this person, and that person makes a referral to that person, and next thing we know, we're just helping hundreds of people with traditional estate planning, wills and trusts. It's interesting how I really got into the estate planning. Me and my brother Jim were young single guys, and this young lady who I absolutely adore, her name was Ann Kelly. She became the social worker to Shelby Nursing Home. So Ann, she would have all of the family members from the residents to come in and talk about the issues. We'd have 30 or 40 people come in, and the more that I did and the more that I helped, that drew me into the area of people are in nursing homes, they need the help. You're helping people that are 50, 60 years old with their estate planning documents, their wills and trusts, but now they're in the nursing home. What do we do? What do we do? And that started drawing me into that really complex area of Medicaid planning. So we do a seminar, and it's Shelby Nursing, beautiful place again, 30, 40 people, and we talk about what you need, wills and trusts, and a young girl comes up to me and says, my dad is in the nursing home.
Since my parents were divorced, they didn't live together, and I only saw him when I came back from school. I was away at college. So I saw him, once every few months, just casually. And then when I came home from college, I spent more time with him. It was kind of my mission. I'm home from school now, I'm an adult, and I want to hang out with him more and get to be closer. So I saw him maybe 3-4 times a week, and right away, he was just so different. Like, he seemed like a little kid in an adult's body. Like, he was sillier than he ever was. He was always kind of a funny guy, but he was really silly, and I could tell that he was making jokes like to compensate for things that he didn't really know. I'd ask him about something, hey, how was this at work or whatever, and he'd make jokes about things, which was a little strange. And then the biggest thing I remember was we went out to dinner one night, and he had a winter coat, and this was like, 1991 when everyone had pockets and everything, right? We had pockets all in our pants. He had a coat that had a pocket here, front pockets here, and side pockets on the side. And we walked up to his apartment after dinner, and he was looking for his keys. And he literally went in and out of those pockets 50 times. And I just stood there waiting instead of jumping in and saying, for Pete's sake, they're right here, like you just had them, they've got to be on you. But I just watched how long it took him to struggle to find those keys. And it was a long time. And I thought, okay, this is really not normal. And then my mom worked at the same place that he worked. So I was talking to her about it, and she started asking at work. They worked for a really large company, and he was in a different division. So she didn't see him on a regular basis at work, but she started asking around at work and found out that he had been written up a few times, like multiple times, in the last 4 years or so for bad performance at work. And he was a super, super smart guy and really dedicated to his job. He won all kinds of awards when he was a younger working man. Just a really successful professional person. And so then she finds out that he had basically been in trouble for lack of performance at work for quite a while, which was really weird. And when we asked him about it, he couldn't even really explain. He didn't even necessarily know that he had been in trouble. A few of his friends said that they noticed that he would come back from lunch late and found out that he would get lost coming back from lunch. There were thousands and thousands of people who worked in 3 big buildings there. And so, he worked there his whole life. He never worked anywhere else. And he'd get lost coming back from lunch sometimes, so.
And it was obvious that he just couldn't take care of himself. And it came out, he started to have dementia. Dementia at 53, 54 years old. And you think, wow, that is just such an early age. You think this is being an old person disease, and it's really not.
We knew then that he shouldn't be living by himself. And so my first reaction was, well, I'll go move in with him. And I was living at home with my mom at the time, and I'm the only child, so I said, well, I'll just go move in with him. And my mom said, absolutely not. He's not in his right mind, and you can't be responsible if he's up all night or something happens. At that time, I was probably 22 years old. So she said, no, we have to have other support here. It can't just be that you move in with him. So we started looking around for assisted living because we didn't really know what else to do. But the thing that was so hard about that is that assisted living is generally in nursing homes, and the age of nursing home patients is usually a lot older than 55. So you have this guy who looks 55, and he's a golfer, he's a sports guy, he's super fit, and he looks young, but he can't live by himself. So assisted living was the only choice for us then. Here I am by myself, packing up his apartment, all his stuff, a whole lifetime worth of stuff, because he really wasn't even in the shape to do that. It was so strange how compliant he was. I really thought that he would, we'd take him to Shelby Nursing Home and he would say, well, what the heck am I doing here? Why aren't I going back to my apartment? He didn't even really fight any of that. It was like he knew that he needed help, and he just kind of went along graciously with whatever we told him we thought he should do. I remember going home and crying myself, like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? How long is he gonna live? Like, how bad is this gonna get? Having no idea what the future held. But he was very calm about everything, and my mom said, you know what, I think it's time that you retire. You can retire with your full benefits, and you're not doing well at work, and we don't want you to get in trouble. And he was fine with that. So we put the papers in, and within 2 weeks, he was completely retired from work, had moved all the stuff out of his desk, and then we were moving him into assisted living. It was really fast. Once in a while, he would say, when I was getting ready to leave, he'd say, so I'm going with you, right? And it was like, no, you can't go with me. But they let me take him out, so I would take him out to dinner and for a ride in the car and stuff. But I could always tell how sad he was when I brought him back. And I went every single day. So to me, I was young and stupid and didn't, if I had it to do all over again, I mean, I would do things. I don't know that I would do things different, but I would understand things more than I did then. Because then I was trying to have a life of my own too. And so after I'd been with him for 4 hours and I would take him back and he would be sad, I'd be like, for crying out loud, we just spent the day together. I'll see you tomorrow. When I found it difficult and needed help was when some medical questions came into play. And I would ask the doctor, why do you have him on this medicine? He doesn't seem right. They tried a lot of different medicines with him to keep him on a normal schedule, which Alzheimer's patients usually aren't. They wanted him to sleep at night and be up during the day. And he wanted to be up at night and sleep half the day. And so he was on a few different medications. And anytime I tried to ask, why is he on something, they wouldn't really talk to me because I wasn't his guardian and I didn't have power of attorney. But the legal guardian was the big part because he was still pretty much making his own medical decisions. So then we had to get guardianship for me to be able to get the answers to questions from doctors, to see his medical charts. I needed power of attorney so that I could do his banking for him, Because up until then, I would bring him his checks and stuff, I'd write them out, he would sign them, and then it got to the point where it was just too confusing, so I needed to be able to handle all that myself. So I got a letter in the mail from the nursing home saying that they were going to have an attorney come for a free presentation on guardianship and power of attorney. And my mom and I looked at the letter and she was like, well, you really got to go to that because I think we need it now.
So she came in and they didn't have any documents prepared, which is the most common thing ever. You need a medical power of attorney. You need a financial power of attorney. If you want to protect your assets from probates, a lot of different ways, but I use revocable trust agreements. They didn't have anything.
We went to Pat and we got the power of attorney and the guardianship. And so I was able to ask more questions and get more answers, and that was a really good thing.
You have to sign it while he's still competent. He needs to know who he is and who his family's members are, but people really think, and they really get this messed up, and I think a lot of it's because of the misinformation out there. You have a diagnosis of dementia, you can't sign the document, and that's absolutely wrong. There's called lucid intervals. Well, the first time we go out there, he's having a bad day. Second day we go out there, he's having a bad day. Third day, he's having a good day. And a lot of family members, they have good mornings but bad nights. You have good now, but tomorrow may be bad. You got to get him on a good day. So luckily, we got him on a good day. So as we're going along, and the more time we're going out to see her dad, the more we started to like each other.
When I hired Pat, he answered so many of those questions for me, and not only just show up for the appointment and here's your help and call me if you need me, but he was really there. I mean, he was, right from the beginning, anytime something came up with my dad, I probably called Pat before I called my mom because she didn't always know what to do. And so even things that were not of a legal nature, I knew that he knew families that had gone through things similar and that he would probably know what I should do. So we really became friends, and then all of a sudden when I was going to the nursing home every single day, he'd say, hey, you want me to go with you? And I was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to sit there by myself. So all of a sudden we became like this team to help take care of my dad. We were friends, and it was such a relief to me that I didn't have to do anything by myself anymore. He went with me every day to see my dad when he was close by in Shelby Township, when he was way out in Farmington at Botsford Hospital. He went with me every day. And so it was kind of one of those like stressful situations of life where terrible things are happening and you make this great new friend and it like bonds you together so tightly that I didn't know how I could survive without him.
And then we started dating, and then she went to Florida. Her dad's in the nursing home. Everything's going great. We have the paperwork, everything's signed up.
While we were down there, I got a call that my dad had, at night, got in an argument with a nurse and punched her, like really punched her. So they called an ambulance and they sent him to the hospital because their feeling was that he wasn't medicated well enough to be able to control that behavior.
And he was the most happy, the most fun, the most joking around guy you would ever meet. But when you start getting dementia and you start getting confused and you're losing control of that sense, you start getting frustrated and you start lashing out. He never, ever, ever touched a patient. He would walk the little lady. He's only 55 years old, about, 5'6". He'd walk the little ladies to the lunchroom, and he was the most wonderful person there, except the staff. And he started pushing and shoving the staff. And when you're in that type of environment, they can't have the person like that, because if he accidentally pushed a nice little lady, falls down, breaks her hip, now we're in deep trouble. So they had to evict him. And they had to evict him, and there was absolutely nothing we could do. they decided to send him to Botsford Geriatric Psych Hospital, which was a fabulous place. It's one of the most prestigious geriatric psychiatric hospitals that I know about. In Michigan, for sure, even the country. The doctors there are specialists in handling these types of cases. So I was happy. Shelby couldn't take him. Let's take him over to the Botsford and let's have him evaluated. And they did, and they took him off of all of his medicines, and they actually had someone sitting there 24 hours a day watching him to see what happens when you start taking off the medicine and then reintroducing. The trouble is when you have a placement in a psychiatric hospital, the person can't sign himself in. The old medical power of attorneys didn't allow this daughter to sign you into this psychiatric hospital. So that required us to go to the probate court mental division. Like you hear of mental illnesses and people that need to be signed into mental hospitals, that was the whole process. I don't know of an attorney at that time that ever had to go through that because it just never happened.
For me, one of the biggest, hardest things was when he was in Botsford. I would come in to visit him, and they would give me like a list of warnings about the risks I was taking to go in the room with him. And I'd walk in and he'd go, "Oh, hey kid." And I'd go sit on his lap and stuff, and the orderly would be like, "I gotta warn you against that." And I'm like, you know what? I'm willing to take the risk. And he never ever was aggressive with me, or where I never saw him behave that way. I know that he did, but I seemed to be a calming presence for him, which was great. And in hindsight, like any of those days where you walked in the door and he said, "Hey kid," that was a good day, because there were a lot where he didn't after that.
And I know what's coming. I absolutely know what's coming. The doctors are talking to us, says, "Pat, Michelle, we can't fix them. There's nothing that we can do. We can't restrain them. You don't want to tie them up. You can't lock them in a closet. And you can't chemically restrain them either. You can't dope them up so much that he's just laying in a pool of his own." So, they're saying, take him home. Take him home. We can't take him home. He's violent at home. He'll walk out in the street. He'll get run over. We can't take him home. So we have to go through the court. Now we're in the probate court process. And how that mental division probate court process is, the doctor shows up and says, "This is what's going on with Bob."
We were in court after Botsford Hospital when we were hoping that the court was going to help us to find a good, safe place for my dad. And the court says, "Oh, well, we have a place, Clinton Valley Mental Hospital." And we thought, what? He doesn't have schizophrenia. He doesn't have a lot of these other treatable mental conditions. He has Alzheimer's, and we didn't see the connection. Like, how is that an acceptable placement for him?
It's where they put the criminally mentally ill people where there isn't any other place to put them. And I know that's coming. So here I am in the probate court, and the judge is saying, "Pat, if you can't take them home," and the judge was Anthony Viviano, wonderful judge, wonderful, caring, compassionate judge, one of the best judges I have ever met then till now. "Pat, that's the only place." Well, I can't allow that. We have to fight this out. We can't allow that to happen. So we say, okay, we can't do the court now. Send them back to Botsford, and we'll have you back in 2 or 3 weeks for the next court date. Hopefully, the next court date, he'll be calmed down, his medicines will be calmed down. We go out there, and we have to do this 2 or 3 times. And as we're going out there, I'm out there with Michelle, his daughter, and going, "Let's see these medical records." "No, we're not going to give them to you." "What do you mean? We're the power. You let me see." "No, you go get a guardianship for him. We don't need it. That's what the medical power of attorney." "No, you go get it." And they actually escorted me out of the hospital just to see his medical record. I said, "Okay." You want a guardianship? I know how to do that. We go to probate court, we get a guardianship the next day. I said, give me these medical records. These court dates, going back and going back, was giving us an opportunity to try and find a nursing home that could take them. None of them could take them, none of them would take them, because it's not fair to all the other residents. So we're just trying, and sadly at that time, there wasn't any advocacy groups that we knew about that could say, go look here, go look there, go look there. So the only question was, take them home. Couldn't do it. The judge says, Pat, I can't keep adjourning this anymore. We don't have any other options. He has to go to Clinton Valley Mental Hospital.
And my dad at that time did not make sense a lot of the time. You could have conversations with him where he was just all over the map about things. He couldn't even really stay on a topic.
Bob looks at me, and he's in his demented state, confused like crazy. He goes, people like me need people like you to fight for us. And at that second, I knew why I was placed on this planet.
And honestly, he hadn't even said a sentence that had made that much sense in a year. And for him to be in that situation and to know something serious just happened to me, and I don't understand it, but you guys have to help me and people like me.
So, court date's over. He goes to Clinton Valley Mental Hospital. It's a locked hospital. You walk in, it's the big nasty buildings and the blocked elevator, and you go up and you're in this locked in private visiting room. And here's Bob, nicest guy in the world. He doesn't know what's going on. We'd bring him clothes, his clothes would be stolen. We'd bring him shoes, his shoes would be stolen. He'd be beat up. He's going in people's room. He takes this, he doesn't know. We got to get him out of there. We can't find a place to put him. We cannot find a place to put him. And this went on for months and months and months, until finally, we heard of a phrase called an adult foster home. And not many people know about it, and it is absolutely the best thing out there for our seniors. An adult foster home is a house where they can take care of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people at the same time.
But we did find Mabel and Wayne, and they were wonderful. They were really peaceful, nice people.
She was the most special person in our life, and her name was Mabel. And she called herself Mabel, Mabel, set the table. She's just wonderful. She was, and I say it with love in my heart, she was this cute little hillbilly lady. And we went and talked to her, and we had to tell her the truth. He is violent. He doesn't know what he's doing. He'll push people, he'll shove people. You have to be fair to everybody else. And she goes, honey, they just don't know how to take care of him. And guess what? She was right.
They said, oh, you know what? Between Wayne and I, Mabel said, I'm up during the day, he's up at night, and somebody's watching 24 hours a day. And our specialty is taking care of people who really don't have any other place to go. So it was great. They took really, really good care of him. They
treated with respect. They treated him as a person, and he liked it, and he lived there. And then, I'm not saying there wasn't any other problems. There was always problems, because he started getting really bad at that end. He became incontinent. They had to change his diapers. They have to give him baths. At the end, they have to start giving him feeding tubes. And they kept him right until he passed away. And that's what saved our life, absolutely.
And what I always really admired about Pat is that he took something that happened in our family that broke all of our hearts and made us all feel passionate for the cause of Alzheimer's research. And he didn't just write a check. He got on the board of the Alzheimer's Association, and he went to the meetings, and he worked and worked to help the charity itself. And then he continued to never forget that this was his passion, his mission in life, to help people who were struggling with families with Alzheimer's. And so it wasn't just a couple years, oh, I'll be on the board and I'll, tell my story a few times, whatever. He's been doing it every day, helping people, retelling our story over and over again so that people know that he's been there, he's seen it. He learned so much along the way. Unfortunately, the bad things that happen in placements with my dad were all lessons learned at the time that now he can help people to make better choices and to know what other options are out there. And so he took that purple ribbon for Alzheimer's and he didn't just pin it to his coat and walk around and say, oh yeah, this is a big deal for me. He changed his whole practice, the way he ran his whole business. He made that his focus and has done it every day for the last 20 years and still does today. So, when he says, come to me, I care and I understand and I know how to help you because I've been there, it's really true.
And people ask me now, is that why do you stay in it if it's so hard and the laws are changing so much? How can you stay in this? And there's only one thing, and I will tell everybody that sees me on TV or comes into my office, I am not the smartest lawyer. I did good in school, I am not the smartest lawyer. I may not be the best speaker. I may not be the best at anything, but I absolutely promise you I am the most passionate person. And that's what you need. You got to have passion for what you do because it is so hard. And if you don't have passion for it, you're going to just give up. You're going to give up. You know why? Because that's what sane people do. If it's so hard, you give up. It's the people that are passionate at what they do and love every second of the day. They're going to stick with it. And I love every second of the day. When that little lady comes in and she goes, oh my God, my husband's in the nursing home. I'm going to lose everything. I said, no, I'm going to save you. I'm going to protect you. And you can just see the relief in her eyes. That's what gets me through. So the first thing, you got to have passion. And there isn't anyone more passionate than me. The second thing is you got to have a good team. You got to be a good talent scout because you can't do it alone. And I am the best talent scout in there. And I know that from the referrals we get, and we get so many referrals, that I'm just so happy with what I did. And I'm so happy that all of these wonderful people have given me this privilege to help them over the years. And now my one daughter, she's in college, she wants to come into the business, and my other daughter wants to come into the business, and hopefully my son will too. And just to bring that home and continue with our legacy is my dream every day. So I tell you, families out there, thank you for giving me the opportunity to help you. And thank you on behalf of my whole office and staff, because there is no one better and there isn't anyone that wants to work harder for you guys to take care of you.